Welcome to the PB and J's. No, shut up. Welcome to the blah 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 blah. Welcome to the PB and J's. The PB and J. I'm no. Start again. Welcome to PB and J's podcast, the Convention Creatives. This is a show where fandom meets artistry, and we occasionally spill the tea, or in my case, Mountain Dew. And I'm Jay, the guy who's here to ask. I can't read today. And I'm no.
What are you doing? What are closing your show?
No, start again. I'm really sorry.
Yes. If you've ever wondered what and how your favorite enamel pins, how, what, and how, yeah. Hi, PB, the Pin Badge, your guide to the shiny, collectible world of enamel pins and all things creative.
And I'm Jay, the guy who's here to ask all the questions you're probably thinking, and occasionally, just occasionally, keeps PB on track.
Only occasionally. I am my own boss, damn it. This week, we're diving into the world of enamel pins. Designing, producing, collecting, and everything in between. If you've ever wondered how your favorite pins are made, and what goes into creating them, this is the episode for you.
I reckon it's time to put a pin in this introduction. Do you see what I did there? It's very good. And get right into it. Because I've got questions, PB has answers, and we've got a lot to cover. So let's get started. Please.
Let's go.
Go.
What a train wreck of an introduction. But we did it. Well done.
That's it, guys. It is episode 4 of our little podcast. I say a little podcast. It's our top 6 ranking podcast. By the time you hear this, we're probably number 1. It's a fair bet. Let's just assume it was. Let's assume that's happened. And if it hasn't, don't tell me it didn't happen. Okay, don't correct me on that. All right. A new week, a crazy week. Magically, if you're listening to this right now,
yes,
we're at MegaCon right now.
We are.
We travelled back to our respective homes to record and put this up on the same day. We are insane. Can you believe it?
The commitment is
absolute wildness. And if you are listening to this episode because you found us at MegaCon, welcome to the family. You are so welcome here. We are so grateful that you came along, and we hope you have a wonderful time. I'm pretty confident. Now, are you ready? Because this is the topic. I occasionally like to get pins. Just sometimes they keep popping up on my person. And I will admit, I love pins. I adore pins. I ain't got a freaking clue how you make a pin, what you have to do to design a pin, how much. I know nothing. I just know they're pretty and I like them. That's my knowledge. So you have your work cut out today.
Yes, it is a very big topic that throughout the years, doing the TikToks, doing the Reels, I have been asked so many questions about pin making. Even in person, at events, people sometimes just start the conversation, and I start giving out my TED Talk about how pins are made and why they are only made in China. What is a middleman? Hard enamel? Soft enamel? What are you even talking about? So this is it. Buckle up.
We have so much to cover, and I think it's going to be... I like the fact you said that you give everyone a TED Talk, because it does mean going forward, you can just say, this is the... Listen to this episode. It's all on archive now. I don't have to say it. I don't have to repeat it. You don't have to sit through like a 60-minute talk in the middle of a convention floor. You can do it in your own time at home now. So Welcome to the Gilbone TED Talk today for enamel pins. Let's go right back to the very beginning, because yes, it's great. I want to know how they're made, but there's no point us discussing that if we don't understand why you even bother in the first place. What got you into them? What was the journey getting you here? So let's start from that point. How did your interest in enamel pins even begin?
I went through my first convention to the UK in early 2018 after moving to the UK in at the end of the previous year. And it was a very small convention in London. It was like in a student hall type thing. And there were many artists who nowadays are my colleagues and friends who were exhibiting there. And one of them, my friend Sophie, mostly known as Foxleap, was there selling her wolf and anime type stickers and all these paper products that she used to do at the time. She was mostly focused on that. But at the very center of her table was this very sweet looking fox pin. And pins weren't very common yet at the time at conventions. I saw that was the one I saw at that particular event. I absolutely fell in love with it, not because it just radiated absolute cuteness, but also because the price point, right? There were prints being sold at £10 or £8 or what have you, but this was spending the same amount of money, but getting something distinctly that looked
Yeah,
value. You know what I mean? It's just something a little bit more elegant and collectible than stickers. Not to diss stickers collectors, but for me, it was something that screamed out for me. So I bought this pin from Foxleap in February of 2018, I believe. For the people who are only listening, the pin from Foxleap is an adorable, maybe a 4 centimeter fox pin, which used to be her logo at the time. It is essentially, it only has 4 different colors and it is made on hard enamel, giving it a certain thickness to it. And I've preserved this as a very special relic to me since then. Absolutely love it. And we were heading on the train journey back to the house, and I kept staring at it and trying to suss out what can I make that would look like this. And I remember I had a design of Eevees from Pokemon that mimicked the phone game Neko Atsume. Neko Atsume was a mobile game that was super popular, and
yes.
I made this T-shirt about Eevees as a cross parody between the two things. And I said maybe I can take the individual characters that I made and try to make pins out of those individual characters. On July of that same year, I ran a Kickstarter campaign that reached over £20,000 in funding that first collection of pins.
Insane.
And it was a whirlwind of how to go from February getting your first pin, never seen one before, to making an entire campaign in summer of that same year, and it really taking off. But that's how we roll, right? We it's kind of a theme. But yes, that is how it all started for me.
So you did that first one, and it's kind of wild how that escalated so quickly from being, oh, this could be something I do. Oh wow,
Yes.
this is a very successful Kickstarter to make this happen.
In fact, to date, I have designed about 400 pin designs.
It, I don't even comprehend how you can do that many. That's so many. I think it shows you though just how much you enjoy
Yeah.
designing and making these products. What do you think is specifically special to you about it as a medium, as an artist?
I think there are various factors to why I keep going in the pin game. Um, Firstly, because I have now settled in a collection of pin style, and I would like to see as many characters that I love in that specific pin style. For people who are familiar with my work and those who aren't, I make a collection called Nyan Neko, which were originally based on Hello Kitty meets Funko Pop. And I made this more adult-looking cat girl, and I decided to dress her up, play dress up, because fun, with a bunch of magical girl designs, and then I did the same with Animal Crossing characters, I did the same with Demon Slayer characters, and now all my pins are literally this collection of Nyan Yaneko cat people that I do cat people, but also I do other anthropomorphic characters as well. I just like the idea of seeing as many of my interpretation of characters that I love in that particular style. But also, outside of making t-shirts, it's probably the thing at my convention table which I am most proud of. It's like I said, there's something elegant about an enamel pin, and it is also something that has gift value as well. If you want to buy something from Con for your friend, a t-shirt is lovely, but sizing can be tricky. A print is nice, but handing over a print is sometimes a little bit like, okay. But giving a pin, it's just so nice, you know,
Yeah.
and it can be kept in its shiny packaging. It can be put on a corkboard. It can be placed into a pinfolio. There's just so much that you can, you know, it's beautiful. Pins are nice.
I agree. And personally, as a consumer of them, I think what I like about pins in general, especially pins that I do buy from conventions and stuff, is you'll find that generally with a lot of people who sell their own artwork and stuff, that it's a completely different representation of those artists. And I think that's why I like them. I think what you said as well about there is a difference between stickers. There's a different level of quality to it. Like I have so many prints and I love them and I adore them staring at them. Like as much as I love my prints, I would never say I have a collection of prints. But like I like the idea that I can complete a set of pins and I like that satisfaction from completing a set.
Yeah.
We talk about hyperfixations. A continuous one throughout my life has definitely been enamel pins. I think it's safe to say.
Good. I'm glad. Give me your money.
Well, before I give you all my money on the variety of pins you have, I think you better justify the process in making them. Yeah, okay. So
it is so much work.
I am a budding artist who draws a variety of stick men because that's my skill level, and I want to turn my stick men into a range of pins. So
You
guide me
literally
through the
cannot.
process.
You literally cannot.
I literally fall on the first hurdle by making them stick men. It's the stupid idea.
Too tin.
Okay,
Too
well
thin. You need
they're
something
not
a little
they're,
bit more.
they're circular men then.
Yeah, circular men are
Okay.
easier to make.
So I want to make pins. What's the first step? What's the first part of the design process? What do I need to think about when actually designing a pin? Because like we said, it's a very different approach.
Yes. I would say there are many different rules that you need to follow just to design a pin. You need to make sure that the lines are consistently thick in a way that it doesn't leave any like very tiny spaces that the actual coloring cannot fit in. You need to have certain spacing between every element in it. It works the same way as you're coloring a stained glass, so every element needs to be enclosed, right? You cannot have open spaces where the colors are fading into each other unless you're using a process of screen printing or things like that. But I would say the very basic idea, when you're doing your first pin, you're not going to go all in with massive design. You're going to start small and you will need to sketch your idea, then make a clean version of it where it is line art and base colors. I always recommend keeping the base amount of colors to the minimum because the more colors you put, the more expensive the production of the pin is going to be.
Imagine, yeah.
That you essentially pay by color. Something that is important to keep in mind is that you will always have a minimum order quantity for making a pin, and that depends on the factory you're working with. You're either going to be asked to produce 50 at a time or minimum of 100 at a time. So you really need to make sure that design is one that you want to work on and that is going to be a good seller. It's not exactly something that you just make willy-nilly because you're going to have 100 of them to sell.
When you're in the design process, do these factories have an infinite set of colors? Do you have to work within a certain framework of colors you have available?
Yes, there is a book that we all use, which is the Pantone book.
Okay.
And anything within the Pantone book usually can be done with any manufacturer. There are certain colors that you need to be a little bit mindful of. For example, yellows are very difficult to narrow down properly. Especially, I find some factories more than others, they tend to end up giving you more of a brownish lime than yellows,
Okay.
right? But again, it's all trial and error. It's all the factory that you work with is going to be very important. It needs to be someone that you trust, especially if you're going to drop like 10 designs with them. You know, you need to make sure that you've worked with one or two with them once or twice before on one or two designs prior, just so you know the quality that you're getting and not investing a whole bunch of money on a manufacturer that you know absolutely nothing about. But no, colors is generally never a problem as long as it is within the Pantone book. And if you can't get yourself a Pantone book, because Pantone books are actually very expensive, there are websites that can use the color picker to get your hex code if you're using Illustrator or you're using Photoshop, and they will give you the like set of closest colors of Pantone, and then you can go back and forth and see which one works best.
When you're designing these things, do you have any advice to when is a good time, when is not a good time to think about things like glitter and these sort of other effects that you can add on top of these pins?
So when you are working with glitter, screen print, there are a lot of other effects which I am not familiar with. There's sandblasting the metal to give it kind of like a gritty effect and so on and so forth. You can use as many as you want in whatever context you want. There's some limitations. For example, if you do stained glass, which is something that you see a lot in official Disney pins, the sections that are stained glass are generally wider space sections because otherwise you don't really get to see anything because the metal will be so thick that the manufacturer will tell you not to, basically. But all these effects cost money. Every single effect costs money. So let's say I have designed an enamel pin where this is actually the majority of my pins. My pins, the Nyan Nyan Echoes, are characters that are fully dressed. They have the hair and everything. I always have screen print accentuate the highlights in the hair, especially. And because they're screen printed, I pay a significant extra charge because they're screen printed. Screen printing is when you put color on an enamel pin. Like I said, it needs to be like on a stained glass within the confines of your lines, right? However, you can have them create screen printing molds, as they call them, and they act almost like stamps, that they stamp a color onto the pin.
Okay.
Right? And then you can color whichever part you want, and it imprints onto your pin. For example, if you're familiar with Disney pins, the way that they do, for example, lipstick and eyes and blush onto enamel pins for the Disney princesses, that is too small of a detail for them to make a line around those coloring areas. Also, it would look a little bit strange. So instead, they screen print the different layer of eye colors and the eyelashes and so on, or they screen print the lips and the blush and so on and so forth, right? But back to the point I was making. If you pay for screen print, that is a significant cost. If I want the clothes of my character, which all the clothes in my pins are glittered, once again, you've significantly added to the cost of the pin. So you can have as many effects as you like, but keep in mind that a base pin with no effects, with minimum color, to an other pin that has like 10, 15 different colors, and suddenly you're giving it all these effects, is going to be significantly more expensive to produce.
It's interesting because I think of more like with prints, and again, this is thinking about before we start adding foils and all sorts of things to prints. But you know, if you do a very simplified design or you do a very complex design, like it's more about what your personal style is, things like that. Whereas this feels much more about like your design consciously has to factor in the practicality of it. Because if you make a too complicated design, it will be physically impossible to do in some cases. And then, like you said, how many colors it's going to cost you. It's much more that you have to really apply a business mindset to making these.
You definitely have to be a lot more strategic when you're making a pin, mostly because there are so many rules to pin making, but also because they are so much more expensive to make than having a batch of prints made, than having stickers made, even than having t-shirts made. I can have a t-shirt order for 100 to 100 pounds, but I would need about 400 pounds to make one pin, right? So again, if you're trying to make a set of pins, you really need to properly put your business cap on and see how you can make it closest to what you want, but obviously be a little bit more business savvy in how you budget towards that.
Does that also apply to not just the design itself, but also the metal? Because I know I've seen pins that are like a black gold ones, all these sort of things.
We have the different types of metal. That is the coating, right? Because you are always going to get more or less the same kind of base metal inside, but then it is dipped into a different type of coating, be it gold plating, nickel, rose gold, copper, and that will give it like the nice shine on the outside of it, right? But also, if it is a soft enamel pin versus a hard enamel pin, soft enamel pin, for those who try to think about it without having too much knowledge, if you buy a pin from Claire's or from Primark, you know how they look really, really thin?
Yes.
And even the lines of the metal is really thin.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
That is usually a soft enamel pin. The production cost to make a soft enamel pin, from my experience, is somewhere around a third of what it usually costs to make a hard enamel pin.
Okay, wow.
Right? Hard enamel pins, like the ones you have on your cap, for example, especially the LGBTQ Star Wars one, that has a very thick metal base to it.
Yeah.
And then the outline, the inside of the outline, is still of a certain thickness, which is more than what a soft enamel pin would usually have. However, because of that sturdiness, you are obviously going to be paying more. The rubber clasps and the metal clasps, though, you don't really pay for those. You only pay for them if you want them custom made. I have had custom made clasps. I bought a whole bunch of them and then changed them from what the manufacturer gives me, but it's not particularly worth it. The only clasps that are worth changing to are the lockable pinbacks.
Yes.
And they are the ones that lock in. You need an Allen key to open them again. And if you're wearing them on a jacket, if you're wearing them on cap, if you're wearing them on your bag, they will not come off and they will not be lost. Because the amount of orders I get on my online shop telling me, I loved this pin. I got it from you at so and so convention, but I lost it. It fell off my bag, so I need to buy it again. Like, I am so sorry, but you need to get yourself some lockable pin banks. Unfortunately, they are not provided through our manufacturers most of the time. I know there are some manufacturers that do, but again, it jacks up the price.
Yeah. So we've designed our pin of our circular man.
Yes.
And we've picked the dye of the metal. This is the colors I'm gonna have. He's gonna have a glittery belly because why not? And we've put them all together. He's gonna have a rubber clutch because YOLO, and we've got him ready to go. He's ready to go. think I made the best design. The problem is now I need to get it manufactured. I have seen many websites that say they'll make them for me, but I know for a fact from knowing you that you deal directly with these manufacturers, and they seem to be in China. So,
Yes.
how does one even begin the process of where they want to actually put it into a practical production? Where do you even begin?
So, the safest way to find a manufacturer is going through websites like Alibaba and look up different manufacturers from their directory there. Ask a couple of them that you see from their product photos that you like the style of and that they work more closely to the style of pins that you want to make, and go from there. The companies across the UK and US who say that make enamel pins, and this is the question that I am asked most at conventions. Like, I know that they cannot make pins in the UK and the US. The reason being is because the machines used to make those metal molds and make those enamel pins are also used to make coins. And it is illegal for those kind of machinery to be in the US and the UK,
Okay.
right?
Wild.
Yes. So as much as people love to think that they might be getting their pins made locally, it is just not possible. There are many other myths as to why this happens, such as the paint used, the enamel that is filling the colors is not safe and it's not deemed legal by EU and American standards.
Okay.
However, I have personally asked my manufacturer about it, and they gave me as politically correct an answer as, "Oh, you think we would put our workers in danger?" Question mark. I'm like, no, I'm just asking. You know, I'm
Just
just
curious.
trying to ask for TikTok. So maybe that is the case, but even so, the manufacturer is never going to agree to tell you, yes, I'm putting my workers in danger to make your pins.
So when you mentioned like obviously asking them questions like that, and not trying to rock the boat too much with the questions,
Yeah.
are there risks in like communication or maybe miscommunicating to these factories?
So many times, yes. You need to be very vigilant with the way you communicate with them because it is a whole different way of conducting business. It is we are used to a certain way to do things. Business laws there are not quite the same, right? And I'm talking about when, for example, a manufacturer who you no longer work with decides to start selling your pins on AliExpress, right?
Okay.
There is no such thing as the copyright law there or IP
Right.
protection or anything, right? That is just the way it is. We feel it's shitty. I think it's horrific, but there is no actual law there unless you sign some form of contract with them. And we aren't here as small businesses sending out contracts to our pin manufacturers, right? But as form of communication goes, you need to keep things as simple as possible. You cannot get in your feelings about your pin. You cannot be like, oh, I don't think this is like this and this is like that. Just bullet form the changes. Keep it as simple as possible. The least words but most effective for communication
Mhm.
is key. These aren't people waiting to be your pen pal that want to learn about your pin and the thought process behind it. They just want to get it from point A to B as fast as possible and get you your product. That said, you still need to be vigilant about quality. You need to be vigilant. You are given what you are asked for, because sometimes like I said, miscommunication is a thing. Um, but I would say overall, 70% of the time it's okay. 30% of the time it's a bit of an uphill battle.
When you're dealing with this, I'm assuming before they just turn up at your door, like proofs are involved, and you obviously then have to communicate around that as
Yes,
well.
you there are several ways to make sure that your pin is what you want it to be. Firstly, you will always get a proof upon making the order, because they need to vector the design. They need to double check that the colors that you're looking for and that you sent in are the same Pantones as they are thinking. So they give you a full rundown of the whole thing, right? However, you can either pay for a single pin to be made as a sample first. This does not mean that you can order a single pin. It means that you have paid for the full order of 100, right? But you'll pay an extra £50, for example, for them to just make one
Mm.
first, so you can yay or nay it,
Right.
because it slows down their workflow, it holds up their production, so you pay extra just to have that one made, right? Which I tend to not do, because honestly, who has the time to waste on that? Imagine if I did that for all 400 designs I've ever made. It
You're
would
going
have
to be on
been
like the
a
20th
waste of
order.
like, yeah. But what you will always also get is, before shipping out the order, right? You can ask for, rather, a photo of the pins that are being shipped out. So they will send you one individual picture of each pin. If you have found mistakes on that one pin, you can try and make some sort of agreement with them and be like, this is not how it was in the proof. That's your only save. If
Yeah.
it's not as it is on the proof, they will change it. If you made a mistake and you yayed a proof and they did it by the proof, then that's it. You got to take the lot as it is. So that is why looking at the proofs and giving the right information and making sure that there's no miscommunication is very important, because that is your only saving grace,
Yeah.
right? And in
Literally.
that case, you can tell them, no, this is not like how it was in the proof. Please rectify it. If they end up making a miscolor or something that in their minds is good to go, but you're not happy with it, the only solution I have found that works for me is, I am not happy with this at all. I will take a second batch at half the price.
Right.
And then you'll have to just sell the first batch as B grades, or give them out for free, or what have
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
which is not ideal. But if it's something like a Kickstarter pin, then you need to give your customers what you
What
promised
they
them,
they promised, yeah.
So
So, sounds like
tricky.
when it comes to working with factories, you need to, one, keep communication simple.
Yes.
Two, really, 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 really understand and make sure you've properly looked at and make sense of the proofs that you're given. Because once
Yes.
you've approved the proofs, you're pretty much, that's effectively a done deal. Like if you
Yes.
prove something that wasn't right, you're a bit screwed at that point.
Yeah.
And I guess my only other question in terms of like this whole manufacturing process is, in your experience,
hmm
I've designed my little circle men prints and the glitter. I've found my factory. Well, how,
hmm
in your experience, what's the average time between like that design and it being manufactured, ready to ship?
This is the most interesting point, and I'll
Oh,
explain why.
Please do.
Because back in the day, when manufacturers were aplenty and pin artists were only a few, you had a 20 to 30 day roundabout guaranteed.
Yeah.
Turnaround guaranteed. Roundabout? What?
Whee!
Turnaround. Woo! Right? But nowadays, because there's so many pin artists, and because these companies are bombarded with so much to do, the delays are longer and longer and longer, right? Sometimes it takes a couple of months. I had pin orders that I made in March that arrived to me in September.
Oh, goodness.
Now, to add to this point, and this is where the wonderful internet sometimes just... Yes, you will get what I mean. There is a lot of people who complain about gatekeeping, and I am not a gatekeeper, and bless them, they mean well, but they don't really know what the fuck they're talking about. Because the reality is, if I find a good pin manufacturer that does really, really well, right? It is cheap to work with. They are good at communicating. They are giving me my product from proof to production to sent to my home within a reasonable time. The moment I start giving that pin manufacturer to you, and you'd give it to your friend, and your friend gives it to their friend, and their friend makes a social media video about, oh, this is a great, because I'm not a gatekeeper, and they start giving, suddenly that factory becomes more expensive to work with because there's so many more people working with it. It becomes slower, and I now have to wait from March till September to get my order. It will become lower in quality because they're rushing the orders as fast as they can because they want more money. They're never going to say, oh no, we're busy right now because we have these many people and these big artists and so on and so forth, and Gilles needs an order for MCM London very quickly, so we're going to turn you down. No, they're going to keep taking more and more orders because they need money. They're a business. They don't care, right? So this whole concept about gatekeeping with pins is, again, good intent, but very, very not smart.
It's at the end of the day, we're all businesses, and you've got to do things that make business sense.
Yes,
otherwise, you're running a bad business.
It is. It is. You're literally sabotaging your own business by giving out information that is going to end up hurting you in the long run. Now, please keep in mind, I have, again, on TikTok for a long time, I have shared my t-shirt manufacturer, I have shared my prints, stickers. These are all companies that are not affected by this kind of thing. But when people call out gatekeeping, they generally mean for important contacts, such as a pin maker, right? And a pin maker is hidden and kept secret, which not really, because I've given my pin maker to so many of my friends, but I just don't randomly post about it. Because the moment that you make a pin maker that is good public, they're not good anymore. I might as well tell you here now my pin maker and just find another one, because the moment that 5, 6, 7 people start ordering from them as of a certain point, that's it, they're done. The quality just isn't the same anymore.
So don't do it, people. You're only hurting yourself. Okay, so we found a manufacturer. We have got our pins manufactured. It's done. It's a done deal. There is one slight problem though, Gilles.
Yes.
They're in China and I'm not.
Yes.
And I have a feeling shipping them here is not the equivalent of a first class stamp.
No, not only are you sending a box full of metal, so the shipping cost is, the more pins you order, the more expensive that shipping cost is going to be made. So much so that I have had orders where the manufacturer said, we are breaking this down into 5 lots. Because that you're over capacity by that much that we need to send them, like, package at a time. But, touch wood, I have never had any missing parcels in that manner. However, not only do you have to pay for a very, very expensive shipping cost, you have to pay for tax duty and customs and things like that, which, regardless of if you use FedEx, DHL, or what have you, it will always bite you. That is another thing to take in consideration when you're setting the price for your pins, unfortunately. It can't be avoided. It's just take it in as a manufacturing cost.
So yeah, so and that's the thing. You've got to factor in these costs. Like you've got to factor in the cost of making the thing, because it's not just simple as make any pattern you want and it all costs the same. Like it varies so much. You've got to be cost effective if you're on a certain budget. Getting it into the country again, massive parcel, international, the hilarity that is our customs and everything else. Like it's a process, and you've all got to budget for it. And then even when it gets here, I'm curious what your experience and how you approach this, because I'm assuming they don't arrive fully packaged and all lovely branding and everything. That's another factor you've got to bring into it.
So when you receive your enamel pins, they're going to be in little plastic bags. They are going to be sometimes wrapped in some sort of bubble wrap or something to make sure that the actual pack isn't squashed and crushed, because the back side of a pin can very much bend, and then once that is bent or comes off, it is just of no use to you anymore. And you have to individually take each one out, remove the clasp from the back, put it onto a backing card. The backing card is designed by yourself separately, and I like to keep mine different for each collection that I make. So the collection in itself is distinguishable and easier to find when you're at a con. The collections are grouped by backing card. And finally, I put the pin onto the card into a nice little cello bag. The cello bags are usually found on Amazon, but in my case, I like to design my own with my logo character Cubby, and yeah, it makes the entire packaging look very unique, very cute, very branded, and in a special small business type of way. But that also means that that is about the time where you grade your pins, because pin grading is a massive, massive thing for the pin collector community. I wouldn't say it is as big a thing for convention goers, because convention goers generally tend to use their pins, like yourself, and you tend to put them on a cap or an ETA bag or a jacket. However, pin collectors who buy from the internet, who specifically want to frame and display their pins or keep a collection, generally insist on only having A-grade pins. A-grade pin is a flawless pin. Absolutely, there is nothing wrong with it. You need to take a photo from your phone and zoom in and take a picture of the individual pin, and it needs to have not a single scratch, not a dent, not a bubble in the enamel, nothing. It is the flawless pin. A B-grade pin would probably have an imperfection that is done purely because of something within the process. So for example, a little air bubble from the enamel that rose to the top, you end up with a little hole, or a basically maybe a little scratch on the gold, a tiny one, because of the packaging being shipped from a long distance. If it is a mistake or a something that is damaged because of carelessness, that generally is a C grade or a D grade or whatever, blah, 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 blah. When I started making enamel pins, when I tell you that it would take hours upon hours upon hours to check each individual pin, each one, take the pin, take the phone, I had a massive magnifying glass that I would check each pin under and categorize them in different segments and then keep them in different boxes with foam and everything to try and make sure that when someone was buying as a collector, they would get like the holy grail of pins.
Yeah.
I gave up on that when I was doing all that and people still somehow found something.
Right.
And by that point, I was like, yeah, nah. I just wrote on my website, I don't really check. I don't check anymore. Which I do. I do. In fact, if you come to an event where I'm selling, I usually have a little bin that there are discounted pins there. And usually those are either pins that I don't want to keep in my stock anymore, or they're B-grade pins. And it's funny to me how people generally grab the pin from there and then they spend like 10 minutes going like this to try and find the thing. And they're like, but there's nothing on it. There's literally nothing on it. And I'm like, I assure you that if I grab it right there and then and have a look, I will find it within 5 seconds because they're so obvious to me. But it's just because, you know, finicky and experience with it. But there are a lot of people who value the quality of a pin needing to be exquisite. If you're buying a pin from the Disney store, if you're buying a pin from Primark, if you're buying a pin from Claire's, chances are it ain't gonna be an A-grade pin.
Take that, all. Disney store.
At all. Oh, I had this very fun excursion with my mum. My mum's a legend. And we were in Oxford Street, and I obviously, every time, I want to go to the Disney store just to see what they have. But because I am surrounded by pins all the time, it never occurs to me to actually check what enamel pins they have. I literally never look. Whereas my mum, who has quality controlled so many of my pins over the years, she just goes directly there.
Yeah.
Right? And I always like circle around, see all the things I want to see, get back to her, and she's still there with like 2 things in her hands, and she's like, out of all of them, these 2 are not damaged. Like, yeah, checks out.
Exposed.
Checks out. It's just the way it is, where people come to small business artists at conventions because they want to buy part of an experience. They want to buy a fandom thing from someone who loves the fandom, right?
Yeah.
These companies, it's just a drop of water in an ocean. You know what I mean? Like, It's a product. It's going on the shelf, and that's it. Where we curate as best as we can every single thing. And like I said, I used to spend hours upon hours. Now I just make sure that there is no significant damage that is going to, you know, make the pin look bad at a first glance. But if it's like a tiny air bubble in a corner of an ear that you're not going to notice unless you have a magnifying glass,
yeah,
it's not worth keeping.
I'm not gonna lie, Joel. Yes. Pins sound difficult.
They are very difficult. It's a very difficult business.
It sounds like a complex process. It sounds like a lot of steps to get from A to B, to get to that point where like you've designed it, you've had it manufactured, it's arrived, you've graded them, you have packaged them in your own personal packaging. So it's, again, another just more cost you need to factor in. If you're starting out, which I'm sure there's many people who've always thought about enamel pins. Maybe that's why they're listening to this podcast right now, because something they've always thought about, and they're like, I need a go-to place that tells me all the steps and all the details.
Yeah.
In which case, if you're listening for that reason, you're so welcome. What's a good starting point in terms of money? To realistically get involved in this kind of business? Give us a starting point. You're a new business, you're starting out at convention, and you want to branch into pins. What do you realistically need to think about that's going to be worth the return?
I would say that a pin that is under 5 centimeters in size, right? From 5 to a maximum of 6.5, maybe. That doesn't have any elements to it like glitter or screen print or glow in the dark or rainbow enamel or anything of the sort, right? you are probably looking at starting at 300 something US dollars, because all payments are done in US dollars with these companies, um, for the one design. And then if you manage to reduce that by reducing the size of the pin, reducing the amount of colors that you need, then all well and good. But my pins, as an example, this Disney Nyanya Neko pin
Mhm,
for the Evil Queen,
mhm.
that would have cost me about maybe somewhere around $350 to $400 to produce it the first time, because you have the mold to make the frame the first time, and that is a $90 one-time fee.
Mhm.
When I say one-time fee, if you don't work with that manufacturer often enough, they will dump it.
Yeah.
And you'll have to redo it again with them, because they'll tell you, oh, it accidentally cracked. But it's an excuse that they use. There's a screen printing fee for every screen printed color. Just for you to see here, you see that there is the white on the crown. That is a
Yeah.
screen print, because it isn't blocked out by lines like the yellow
Yeah.
is. That is screen print. That is a $40 fee per color of screen print, just as a base start. And then each pin would probably cost about $4 or
Okay.
$3 just to make the pin. Then you have the shipping cost on top of it. You have the custom cost on it, and selling this for £10 when you probably paid about £6 to make it. It's not really that big of a profit margin,
No.
especially when someone comes up to you and is like, "Oh, how come you don't have a deal on these anymore? What happened?" Like, inflation.
Yeah. I would love to, but I'd literally be selling them at cost at that point.
Basically, yeah. Basically.
Crazy. So, if that's the sort of costs, the reality is, as much as we'd love it, most businesses can't necessarily don't have that money up front to buy these sort of things. For a lot of
Yes.
businesses,
Yeah.
they would love to, but the reality is you need to raise the money up
Yeah,
front. And I'm
you do.
assuming crowdfunding is probably a very popular route for these sort of things.
Yes. The two ways that this is generally done, three ways actually. Um, Either pre-order on your website as a small business. However, unless you have a massive active following, chances are this isn't really going to lead you to anything. Running your own pin club is a thing. I used to have a pin club. However, because of how everything delayed during the pandemic and we were making orders maybe, I don't know, like months in advance to try and get something on time. So I ended up closing my pin club because it wasn't practical at the time. But a pin club on Patreon, for example, you would have 100, 200 people signed up, and every month they're expecting a pin from you. Those 100, 200 people are paying, say, 10, 15, £20 each month, which will help you fund pins for them, and that will grow your pin collection as a pin creator. Lastly, and probably most commonly, is using places like Kickstarter to crowdfund the campaign, like you suggested. Kickstarter used to be a very big venue for new pin collections. I would say that recently it just isn't where it used to be, but it doesn't mean it's bad. I would say I used to expect a good, um, like an average of 5 to 10K from a pin collection, which would more or less get us where we needed to be for a small set of like 10 pins, and so on and so forth. However, nowadays, if a campaign breaks over £2,000 on Kickstarter for pins,
Mm-hmm.
it's a big deal.
Okay.
That said, January season is upon us, which means that Pintopia will be around at the end of this month. Pintopia is an initiative by a website called BackerKit, which I use. And Pintopia is essentially a community of pin artists who are all going to be launching Kickstarter campaigns together all at once, and they will be cross-promoting each other. BackerKit will be sending out newsletters to thousands upon thousands pin collectors to push as many of these projects as possible. And people who have been working with Pintopia for the last year or so, I think this is the second year that they're doing it. Last year it was a massive, massive success. I was very much going to be a part of Pintopia in January of this year. However, because of how things went with MCM Birmingham and how busy we got with other things, I couldn't make it. But Pintopia is definitely a good time for a collector to be scrolling through Kickstarter, because you will see a lot of exquisite pin artists trying to take advantage of that campaign.
So, we've designed our pin.
Mm-hmm.
We've manufactured our pin.
Yes.
I've shipped it all the way here.
Yes.
I have packaged it. I've graded it. And, probably the thing I would have done at the very beginning, funded it.
Yes.
I've done that bit first.
Yes.
And now I have my beautiful circular men pins.
Well done. I can't wait to receive one.
We did it, guys. We did it, guys. Amazing. So, next time someone says, "Oi, Jill, how do you make them pins?" You're gonna listen to episode 4,
baby,
of the Convention Creatives, and I'm gonna tell you in depth every step about how to make a circular man pin.
Yes. So, off this episode, I fully understand that there are limitations to what we can actually explain, because it is a visual craft. And obviously we're on a podcast, so the visuals are a little bit limited. However, if there are people who would like to ask further questions about what was discussed in this episode, I am very happy to be answering any questions in different social media posts, or just leave all the information, all the questions on this Spotify comment thread, on the YouTube comment thread, wherever you're seeing this, and we will try and round up all those questions, and we will make a dedicated episodes questions about enamel pins. I would be very happy for us to do that.
So if you have any questions about anything discussed today, just reach out, like Jill said, on our socials, on the podcast on Spotify, leave a comment, and we would love to collect them and do a little roundup of all the enamel queries. Speaking of, before we move on, I have my own questions that have popped into my head that I have not pre-planned at all.
Yeah.
So let's try and whiz through these as best we can.
Yes.
So, to clarify, what is the culture around enamel pins in convention?
It is a very big thing. The only thing that is a little bit different in the UK versus the US, for example, is that there are dedicated markets and dedicated mini cons in the US where it's just for pins.
Okay.
No stickers, no paper products, no t-shirts. You just go
pins.
And it's because it's for pin collectors. They're not there to buy anything else, right? And the closest thing that we come to these kind of markets, there is a lovely set of Disney pin trading events. I go to one in particular because the others all fall during major convention dates. I go to the Milton Keynes pin trading event. It is a lovely 2-day event where people take binders upon binders upon binders of Disney enamel pins. When I tell you the value of these collections go up to like enough to buy a house. Not joking. I am not joking. There are literally binders upon binders of pins that cost like over 150 pounds per pin each. And I'm like,
Crazy.
how do you even trust this in your car to come here? You could buy a house. You could buy multiple houses based on what you're carrying. But it is crazy. It is. The first time I went, I was in such an awe for so many different reasons. This event single-handedly blew my mind as a pin maker. Mostly because they were selling these pins, right? The what do they call them? The portrait pins. There's a specific name for them, and they cost wild amount of money. But even if they're scratched,
Yeah.
right, it still costs money because it's a Disney original pin.
Yeah.
Even though if I sold that to a collector, they would remove the backing and hit me with the pin. Right? But these people, no, they are super loyal to the Disney mans. But I always go. I try to go every year. It is actually a weekend I go away with Fox Sleep. And we go to this convention together. We treat it as our little getaway at the end of the year, where we just talk about the whole year as as an artist. And we see all the different styles because the beauty of it is that Disney is such a front runner for enamel pin making that if our manufacturers can do something new, chances are we're going to see it there in a Disney pin.
Yeah.
And we can see it in person to see what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Right? So we go there, we look through as many new official pins as possible, and we take photos of the examples that we like, and we see if we can integrate them into something new for us. It is
Amazing.
a lovely experience.
You would recommend?
Highly recommend. Milton Keynes Disney Pin Trading Event. It is the first weekend of November.
We have covered a lot in terms
A
of the
lot.
process of making a pin,
Yeah.
the inspiration, the design, the manufacturing, putting it together, getting it out there, and more. I can understand a bit more because making pins sounds crazy. Is just the community that purchases them and trades them. We've
Yeah.
covered a lot, so I think we have earned a little break before we come back and maybe talk about what pins we see in our futures.
Yes.
And we are back. I feel like I have all the enamel knowledge in my brain right now, and clearly,
Yeah.
you know how to make a pin or two. Mister over 400 pins. He's
Maybe.
been there before. What's happening for the 400 plus? Do we have any plans for this year? Again, 2025. We're still in January.
Yes. I am going to be working on a fair few different things. I feel like the pins that I have at the moment have grown a little bit stagnant because I haven't made a new pin since the beginning of 2023. And I want to try and bring some new stuff. That new stuff is going to include a series of bluey pins. I have 5 characters that I would like to try and make. Might be just 4. You can have a guess which 4 I'm doing. But I also would like to do a set of Five Nights at Freddy's. More so because when the first movie came out, I designed a set of security breach characters that are my favorite designs from the series of games. And then there was no money to fund them. So they are still sleeping in my hard drive. However, apparently, a new movie has been announced that I was not aware of. So go, go, go now is the bring them back, bring them back. Wake up, no more sleepies. So they're coming back, and there's 2 more characters that I would like to add before releasing that series. I have a series of Demon Slayer pins, which sells very well at conventions, and I would like to conclude that series by doing the remaining Hashira characters. I also would like to do, because she has been potentially the most requested pin ever, Kuromi from the Sanrio Hello Kitty universe. I'll be doing Kuromi, My Melody. There's like 5 or 6 of them that I want to do to go with my Agretsugo pins. I'm also going to do a Hell of a Boss and Has-Been Hotel campaign, even though I threw them off a mountain ledge 2 weeks ago.
Look who's come crawling back.
But they've climbed the mountain, and I'm not going to be doing all the characters. However, it will be a good solid base of the collection. So I plan on doing Alastor, Lucifer, Angel and Husk, Vox and Adam, and Serpentius and Nifty. Those
Nice.
are the characters I'm doing. Sorry, Charlie stands not today. And I know one specific person who is going to listen to this segment and like fill my DMs with "Why not Vaggy?" You know who you are. Um, and I'm also going to be doing Fizzaroli, Blitz, Stolas, and Luna from Hell of a Boss because they're the best four
Facts.
characters in the Hell of a Has-Been universe. Aside from that, I am currently working on a small set of very difficult to design pins. I am working on a set of Sonic pins that are keeping me up at night. I am having nightmares. That is how difficult it is to merge the Sonic style with my own style. It's just two different universes. But I am getting through them. I am designing a set of 8 question mark pins, 8 or 9. We're not sure yet. We're just going to see where it goes, and we are going to be putting that as a project on Kickstarter between myself and the one and only Sonic Cage Dome. And yeah, we are going to see how far we can get because we would like to launch that campaign in tandem with the SonicCon UK Kickstarter campaign. We have some collaborations going down. We will tell you about this another time. But at the moment of recording, there is 3 finished outlines of pins from a Kickstarter that I am going to do at the end of the month. Stay tuned to see how crazy and how quick we build a Kickstarter campaign, launch it, fund it, and then wait for the pins to be made.
I mean, we made a podcast in a week.
Facts.
So
Facts. That is so good. I'm still impressed.
thank you. A podcast in a week, and with your knowledge on pins, I'm not even concerned. Not even concerned. So lots going on. Sounds crazy. Sounds exciting. I am very much looking forward to it. Especially, I am probably looking forward to the one with the collaboration with moi. Probably one I'm quite hyped about, and it's the first time on occasion has ever done anything of this kind, so it's like a big moment for us. So for us, it's me. I'm Sonic Cage. No, I like to pretend there's a massive office. It's me. I'm Sonic Cage. Me and my massive team of one are very excited about it. Me and my one intern, which is also me, are very, very
me and my split personality.
Yeah,
we make a great team.
Not only do we love pins, we love many things. I think it's a very good time to talk about our hyperfixations.
Hyperfixations.
And I believe this week it's your turn to go first.
Is it? Actually, my hyperfixation for this week it is pin related, actually. And it's going to be a little bit of a strange one because it's not actually an item or a thing, but it is my determination to not give up on needing to design a nice, coherent set of Sonic pins. I will say that, I explained before, I have this character that I've designed, and the majority of my pins fall under the template, if you will, of that character. This is for obvious reasons. It's not because I cannot design different characters. It's because it is made to look. Even the backing card of my pins is a doll box, a vintage
Yeah.
Mattel type doll box, and I wanted them to look like doll characters, just being dressed up in different things. And when we discussed wanting to make the Nyananeko meet Sonic Cage Dome collab for Sonic pins, I genuinely thought it would be super easy because, and this is going to be as blunt as it gets, as a fan who has learned to adore the Sonic universe, right? Look at them. That is so easy. It's a piece of piss to draw it, right? But as it turns out, the moment that you change the aesthetic of a Sonic character in any way, if you change the proportion, the shape of their face, anything, they just look not formed properly. They just look tragic and horrific. And when I tell you that this week it has been a very, very exhausting battle of not wanting to delete all the files and be like, sorry, Sonic Cage Dome, there is no pins coming your way. But I've done my best. Like I said, we have 3 that we're happy with. There's at least another 3 that are started or semi-finished, just need a few detailing changed here and there. And I believe I have 5 more on the list if we were to do every single one we talked about, which I don't know if it's possible. But yeah, my hyperfixation has been those designs, and I literally lay down in bed and all I can think about is how can I improve that one design to be from ugh to that's the one.
Yeah. I think that's a hyperfixation that a lot of fellow artists listening will very much relate to. I think, that process.
I hope it's not just me going crazy about it.
I have a feeling it's not. Well, this makes my hyperfixation feel really shallow.
All hyperfixations are valid.
Good. My hyperfixation this week.
I'm very curious.
Is Mountain Dew. Don't do that face at me. Don't do that face at me. I've been drinking these a lot this week, a lot. And for those who obviously wouldn't know because they weren't there before we started filming today for the podcast, Jill expressed his distaste for this drink. But I am obsessed. I literally intentionally go around and try and find every flavour. I've got the spooky ones. I've got the red one, whatever that one is. I have so many flavours.
Oh, is that watermelon?
Yes.
I'd like to try that.
Okay, well, we found one he likes. That's good.
Yeah. Oh, look at that chart can. That is so cool looking.
See. So, yeah, I'm just currently going through every flavour that's ever existed, including...
Are you going to collect the cans?
What do you think I'm doing right now?
Making a Mountain Dew lightsaber? In the bin. Be embarrassed. What?
Be embarrassed. It's a shame. There's one flavour I have failed to put on here, which was the flavour called America, which I just thought was what? Just called America.
Tastes like America.
Which apparently is light sparkling raspberry. So there you go. Something we learnt today. Um, only
Okay.
the
Look at you. Wow, look at her go.
I think you started the segment by saying that all hyperfixations are valid. And I'm getting a feeling that there's a slight tone shift that suggests maybe not all hyperfixations are valid.
No, they are. They are all valid. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Right, madam. On that note,
I feel like I'm about to get punished.
yeah, time to get you to choose it or lose it.
Oh no, not again. Dum dum dum.
Not again. And guess where you are? That's right, you're on the edge of a cliff, alright?
It's
Picture the
really
scene.
cold. It's
You're at
actually
the edge of
chilly.
a cliff. It's
Hmm.
cold. It's the
Raining.
dead of night. All you can hear is the rustling of Mountain Dew cans rolling down the hillside.
Wow.
And you're
Yes.
faced with a proposition, sir. Okay? On your left is an envelope. And on the right, shockingly, is another envelope. And in it is a license to make things. Because starting today, you need a license to make anything. You can't just make stuff. It's a crazy world we live in. Times are changing.
Okay.
And you have to pick which license you want to take. You can't have the other one. You have to pick one.
Okay.
The one on your left gives you a license to make and design enamel pins.
Hmm.
The one on the right gives you a license to design and make apparel, t-shirts, sweatshirts.
Okay.
And you've got to decide, okay, which of these businesses am I going to give up for the rest of my career in conventions?
Ooh. Well. Well. Um. I would say that I have accumulated a lot of knowledge over time about pin making. I am very happy with my experience in the pin world. Um, I particularly like the people's reactions when they've seen my table for the first time and they see all the pins, or more so when they haven't attended a convention for a year or two, and then they're like mindlessly looking at the different pins, and then suddenly they grab one. They're like, wait a minute, I met you at that con, and I have this pin. I have it at home. And they're super excited about it. I love that. But because of everything we've discussed today, right, from all that could go wrong, from the cost, from the detail, from the rules you need to adhere by when creating them, so on and so forth. I think if I had to choose solely between making t-shirts or pins for the rest of my career, I would have to stick with where I started, which is t-shirt designs. And that's not to say that I've shared all this knowledge and I would turn my back on pins. No! Imagine that. It's not because I would turn my back onto pin making, but the profit margin for a t-shirt is higher. The time to produce a t-shirt is quicker. It is local to us. You have a lot more flexibility in working with a local company versus working with a foreign company. As an example, I wanted a t-shirt on a very specific teal. The manufacturer that I used, the printer that I used, didn't have that t-shirt. So I said, do you mind if I eBay a box of t-shirts and send them to you and you print on that? And they were like, yeah, fine.
Yeah.
There's flexibility. You're
Yeah.
not going to get that kind of flexibility
No.
with working with a company in China, right? I know that my t-shirt designs will not be printed and sold at another market because I made them locally, right? Because there's trust and there's laws here about that sort of thing. Um, the shipping costs is obviously cheaper. The it's you can't win when you choose pins
Yeah.
over t-shirts. And you'd need to sell, in my estimate, I'd need to sell 3 pins to make up for the profit, the same kind of profit for one t-shirt.
There you have it.
So
Pins in the bins.
wow, off a cliff. So who's at the bottom of the cliff waiting for me to dump 400 designs multiplied by 100 each of my pins onto them? Isn't
Well,
that
at the bottom
littering?
of the cliff, you currently have a lifetime supply of financial security.
Yes.
You have every has-been hotel design you've ever made. You have pepperonis.
Oh no. Have they started going stale by now?
And now, I don't think pepperonis can get stale. I think they would survive a nuclear war. And now, on top
Ev-
of them, you have
Everything.
over 400 pins.
Does that mean I can stop working on the Sonic pins?
No.
What do you mean? I chose to lose it.
There you have it, folks. The outcome of the Enamel episode is 2 t-shirts.
I... Wow. Wow.
Choose it or lose it. It's a tough game.
It
You
is a
guys
tough game.
don't appreciate how difficult it is.
It is. It's very difficult.
And you live
Because
with
they're all
regret,
things that I want to keep. It's
That's-
Sophie's choice.
It literally is. Literally is. Wow, I can't believe it. Do t-shirts, I guess.
Wow. Okay.
Worse.
Okay.
No, I insist, Jill. I know
Okay.
you don't want to do the mailbag, but I'm going to make us do it.
Okay.
We...
This cheeky one.
I mentioned no. Jill has kindly pointed out that he reached out to you guys online through the social medias and said if you had any questions you wanted to ask us, just ask us. And it seems that since you guys very quickly responded, which by the way, 10 out of 10 for the speed of responses in terms of questions, we've picked a few that we would like to read. Right. So we're going to delve into the mailbag. And our first question is from a user called Artels. Their name will be on the screen. So apologies if I have mispronounced. They ask, do different products sell better at different conventions than online? For example, do stickers sell well at certain cons, whereas t-shirts sell better through the website? I hope that makes sense.
Yes. Firstly, this comes from my friend Elizabeth, and she is one of the pin traders at the Disney pin event. Coincidence. I would say that there are definitely certain items that sell more in person versus online, and there is a very, very simple reason for it. Online, chances are people are going to either have something specific that they want to buy from you, for example, an enamel pin, right? But then they add little bits like stickers or postcards or what have you to add to that order, fill in a little bit without adding the major cost of shipping, right? In person, people are more likely to buy a single sticker or 3 stickers because online, just buying 3 stickers and having to pay shipping on 3 stickers, people find that difficult.
Yeah.
Right? In the same measure, it is more likely that someone comes to your table and buys 2 or 3 t-shirts than buying them online because shipping is so expensive. So I would say when you're tackling this kind of thing for your own shop, keep in mind that people are going to probably have like that mid-constant that isn't expensive shipping-wise, but obviously still worth it, like an enamel pin. And then they're going to buy little bits to surround that item, right? They're not going to go for the biggest, heaviest thing as often online versus in person.
Makes sense. That makes sense. I hope that answered your question. I think it did. So, next question is from Fanatic Pufferfish, who asks, I would like to hear advice on how to deal with art burnout and exhaustion.
I would say it is very difficult because As small business owners in the art industry, especially when it is your sole income, even when it's not, mind, I will say that. Um, but when it's your sole income, the fear of if I don't do that next best thing and have that next good convention, then I'm struggling with my rent, I'm struggling with my food. It pushes you to do so much more than you should have to. And we end up biting more that we can chew, almost like doing, Kickstarters, podcasts, taxes, um, new designs, and commissioned work for other people, all in the same 14 days,
Yeah.
and then feel like existential dread when you wake up first thing in the morning. So trust me, I can very much relate to burnout. Um, the only way I can push myself through burnout is giving myself a date in my head or in on a calendar, like you can write it down, and know that you need to keep giving your 110% up until that date and finish everything. Once you're done with that, don't add anything new. Don't keep adding to your list. Say that is it. Once I'm done with that, then I can take a week to myself and do small bits, right? I can catch up with little things. I can read a book. I can have baths every day for a week, right? Just give yourself a focal point and focus on that focal point and push through it. If the burnout has gotten you to a point where you can't even draw anymore, which happens to us a lot, or everything that you're drawing is just feeling mid. In my this is obviously subjective because everyone deals with this kind of thing differently, right? But in my perspective, I just stop drawing. I start on a game like Baldur's Gate that I'm going to throw 300 hours into. I essentially just keep in mind that I have an online shop that I need to do well by my customers by and still do those orders. But give yourself a week off, because the moment you steer away from doing anything creative as a creative person, after a week, you'll just need to go back to it. It would like your entire brain and being just crave creating something, right? And when you come back to it after some time off, you will always be better than when you stop, 100%. But burnout is such a common thing for us. And Pufferfish, I'm sending you all the hugs. Very hardworking person. Keep trucking because you got it.
Yeah. Right. That's our mailbag for this week. If you have any other burning questions on your mind, all you need to do is go to any of our social medias and slide into our DMs, and you can message us with any questions you want. You may also find it occasionally on stories and posts. We just flat out ask you for them, in which case feel free to comment under those. Also, if you really want to, we do actually have an email. You can email us at theconventioncreatives@gmail.com. Just mention that it's a question in the subject line, and we will add it to our mailbag. And we would love to get through all of them. We will aim to do as many as we can throughout the episodes. But don't worry if yours wasn't read out today. It's still in our mailbag, and we will still get to it if we can. So we've done a lot.
We have.
We've done a lot. I think we have very much earned a rest, which is wild because the day this is airing, we're doing a con in the morning.
Yeah, get ready. So, get your sleepies because you're going to need it for the next 2 days.
So, if you're listening while that weekend's happening, I hope we said hi. If not, there's still a chance. Come say hello. And wherever you are, we hope you enjoyed this episode. We can't wait to join you again next week. It's going to be a really good one, trust me. And until then, ciao.
Bye. Are we done yet?
Yes.
I have talked about enamel pins too much now.
Never again.
Never again. I'm never going to bring up enamel pins again. Delete the file for the Sonic one. Ding! We're done. I'm free! That's a good one. Well done.